Рідна земля мати. Господь, Отець наш Небесний. Благословіть. Я йду знищувати!
Ворогів землі рідної! Вбив моїх братів!
Гвалтівників моїх посад.
Нехай рука моя буде твердою!
Щоб вбивати ворогів!
Нехай око моє буде ясним!
Щоб вбивати ворогів!
Нехай зброя моя буде справною!
Щоб вбивати ворогів!
Нехай воля моя буде сталь!
Щоб вбивати ворогів!
Україно! Рідна земля мати!
Господь, Отець наш Небесний!
Благословіть!
Наш рішучий наступ! Нашу священну помсту!
Нашу святу перемогу!
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Spartan. Thought I'd mix it up a bit and just try a live stream. It was unplanned. I gave no notice or anything like that. So the subscribers that I do have, this would be a surprise to them. But I felt like going live. I've got a fairly empty house and at the moment, and I just thought it would be kind of fun to do that. See what happens. See if anybody is able to join, or if this is just basically gets viewed afterwards as you know, kind of a daily war update. So it's Saturday, September 23rd. Real quick, I want to go over the losses for the last 24 hours, as I always do, to kind of catch you up on that. And then I wanted to cover off on a couple of really cool things, really cool items, both with the word spy in them. One's a spy satellite and one's a spy network. And I'm starting to take a deeper dive into both. And then we'll touch on Crimea, a little bit of frontline war update, and see where the live stream takes us. Okay, so just to start with, for the losses for the last 24 hours, crazy as it sounds, you run out of descriptors, you run out of superlatives, like that sort of thing, and it almost becomes mundane or boring. And it's sad to say it too, right? Because these are lives. These vehicles, etc., are not taken out without somebody's life typically being lost or injured, at least being injured. That being said, they are invaders and they're trying to do the same to the Ukrainians. So I never want to make light of anything, and I try to catch myself if I do kind of get too sort of perfunctory and start talking about it like it's a video game or a stat sheet or something like that. I catch myself, but I don't always catch myself. So I'll apologize if I ever sound sort of cold about the stats or whatever. It does break my heart to think about all the lives that are being lost on both sides unnecessarily, all because of the whims of one nut bar living in the past. Anyways, Russian losses over the last 24 hours: 510 men, 11 tanks, which is a nice little uptick on the tank side of things. The tanks, we're sitting at 46.55 in tanks, and this is day 577. So the Russians have been losing, what is that, 9? They've been losing around 9 tanks a day. So when you get to 11, that's a little bit on the higher side. 33 artillery is just bonkers. Now, one thing to be said to anybody who ever starts to question those. So first of all, there's a lot of visual evidence to back up the focus on artillery. I saw Jonathan M.S. Pierce on ATP Politics, and he kind of made the point. I don't know if he got it from Andrew Perpetua, if it was just his sort of thoughts or whatever. That what's happening now is that the Ukrainian troops, specifically those in the intelligence side of things, drone operators, especially the FPV drone operators, that sort of thing, they're running out of sort of close, easy frontline targets, and they're starting to search deeper and deeper into Russian lines to find fuel and vehicles, fuel tanks and vehicles, artillery systems in the back lines, that sort of thing. I think that could be part of it, but I also think it's a concerted effort. I think their counter battery radars are being put to good use. And I also did want to say too that 33, that can literally involve anything from a small man portable artillery mortar system all the way up to 105 millimeter artillery mortar system. Why do I keep saying artillery? Because it's artillery, but you know what I mean, like those 105 massive Tulpan, I think it's called, the mortars. So, and it can include everything else in the artillery family. So it runs the full gamut. For MLRS, they're not very common. They are very deadly. They are very indiscriminate. Not that the Russians care about indiscriminate or not, but it's great to see them taken out. And 4 is way above. They're just about 1.1, 1.2 daily average. So to get 4 MLRS is great. 8 UAVs. Those could be UAVs that were offensively spying on and attacking Russian, Ukrainian lines and troops. Or it could have been, like taking them out on the Russian side of things. Don't know. And 26 vehicles and fuel tanks, kind of, that's runs the norm. Runs the norm. Mixed sayings and metaphors are awesome. I just love them. Runs the gamut, that's the norm. So, first of all, in the thumbnail, talked about the spy satellite. So I'm not sure if any of you remember, but I remember seeing, you see lots of fundraising initiatives. There was a fundraising initiative for the Bayraktars. There was fundraising initiatives, and still ongoing, for like the 1 million drones or whatever it was. United 24, who put this amazing video together. They're so good. They've got fundraising initiatives for wherever you want to put money into, the military, into infrastructure, into civilians, that sort of thing. They've got it. So there's been fundraisers all over the place. And one thing that I recalled last year was the talk of a fundraiser to purchase a satellite and repurpose it as a spy, and use it as a spy satellite for Ukraine. And I really didn't pay that much attention to it. And to me, to be honest with you, it just sounded like a bit of a pipe dream. Like, oh yeah, sure, you're going to crowdsource a spy satellite for the war, and you're going to use it, and it's going to be helpful. It's going to be a good old satellite. And that's right. I just so it was kind of like, in my head, I was thinking to myself, well, good luck. And I hope that goes well for you. And maybe we'll hear about it. And never really, didn't jot it down, didn't take a deep dive into it, and didn't pay attention to it. And from that point on, just kind of never paid it any attention, and never looked back to see what had gone on with it. Well, here is a bit of an update on that satellite, which has been purchased, used, and it's called Ice Eye, which is kind of cool, a little James Bondish. But here you go, and this is again from United 24.
Exactly 1 year ago, on September 20th, 2022, volunteers handed over the ICEYE satellite to the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. Ukrainians raised more than $15 million for this common goal. Thanks to this, the ICEYE satellite has brought a lot of benefits during the year. Its capabilities allow the armed forces of Ukraine to receive intelligence data critical for combat operations on a daily basis and to burn tons of enemy deadly equipment. ICEYE, for example, played a very important role in the attack on Sevastopol Bay on September 13, 2023, when the Russian landing ship Minsk and the submarine Rostov-on-Don were destroyed. Exactly 1 year ago, on September 20th.
So there you go. So they've got the satellite in their possession. They've been using it actively, and I think what this speaks to is, well, many things, but one, the ingenuity, the forward thinking of the Ukrainians, the passion that they have to do their own thing their own way, and to not be 100% reliant on Western aid and support, because that can always go away. So while the intelligence capabilities of the West are obviously incredible, like NATO and the US and other countries have intelligence gathering, intelligence collecting, gathering, and sharing methods and means, and that boggle your mind, right? And they've got what used to be referred to as keyhole satellites that basically can look down and read not just the license on the back of a car, but the expiry sticker on the license to see if it's still up to date, or the text in a large book, things like that. So anyways, the Ukrainians do not want to be solely reliant on the West, because that support could dry up at any moment if, due to elections and other things. So they've got their own spy satellite, and they've been using it to gather intelligence to help them with some of the missions that they have been executing, such as the attack on the dry dock, the Kilo class and the Kilo class sub and the Rapucha landing ship that were both in the dry docks in Sevastopol. So I thought that was really cool. So ICEYE, ICEYE. In case you ever wanted to look it up, or keep an eye on it and see if there's any more mention of it. But I thought that was a really neat video summary update by United 24. I wanted to share with you. The other thing that I also knew that there are partisan efforts, networks, activities going on in almost basically every area of occupied Ukraine. And some was formal, some was informal, some is just like a babushka, like contacting the right person and saying, hey, I'm noticing like a whole bunch of Russian cars are parked at this place overnight, or I'm noticing a ship pulling in or out, or a lot of planes have been landing or taking off, or whatever. It's as simple as that. We've seen reports in the past that some of the partisan, call it a loose network, they've received instructions. Sometimes they've received tools. It could be drones, it could be a phone, it could be a weapon, it could be anything. But they basically kind of like one-off lone wolf type intelligence gatherers who will basically not know anything about anybody else on their network, or maybe not very much about their network. They're working on their own. They're not like a spy. They're just basically a citizen who will do certain tasks, like, when I see this, I'll let you know, or I just saw this, and or I've heard this, or whatever, right? It could be as simple as that. We've also seen certain members of the informal or formal partisan network have basically taken out Russian soldiers and equipment, etc., behind the lines. And of course, on top of that, you've got all of the things that burn all the time. Train tracks, switching stations, trains themselves, bridges taken out, other pieces of equipment. Heck, Vladimir Putin's own private airport was hit by partisans, where he keeps his doomsday planes and some other, some other types of planes and helicopters. That was 4 or 5 aircraft were just damaged a couple of days ago there. So the partisan network runs the gamut. To be honest with you, I wasn't really in tune with Atesh. And Atesh is basically, it's formal. I mean, they've got their own website and Twitter page, etc. And they are the real deal. And I saw their name pop up over the last couple of Crimean attacks, and that they were not only providing information, they were directing fire. And yesterday I shared a tweet that basically they claim that they have a Russian naval, what do you call them? Members of the Russian Navy on their payroll, providing them information for money because they're not getting paid by the Russians. So Atesh has stepped up and said, hey, we'll give you your paycheck. And in return, you're going to tell us when the Russian commanders are going to be in the building, or what the plans are. Excuse me. And so that's what happened yesterday. But here's a little bit. I've got a couple of pieces on Atesh. So the underground Crimean Tatar group taking up arms against Russia. A Crimean Tatar. So the Tatars are basically like ethnic from the Crimean Peninsula, and they have been just brutalized by the Russians over hundreds of years. So just a little bit of they basically, that's where they're from, and that's where they want to return to. Those that have been, some have been sent to Siberia, some have left on their own, many were killed, etc., over many horrific events in history. But anyways, Crimean Tatar-led underground movement is already active. And, oh, by the way, sorry, I hate to keep stopping, but this article is where's the date? This is July 17th. So this is a couple months old. Just wanted to, I'll try not to stop anymore there, but I wanted to make sure that you didn't think this was right up to date. Crimean-led underground movement is already active from behind Russian lines, and hundreds of young Tatar men are ready to take up arms to liberate the occupied peninsula, a veteran community leader has said. Mustafa Zamilev, widely seen as the godfather of Crimean Tatar rights movement, pointed to operations by the Atesh, ATESH, guerrilla group comprising of Crimean Tatars, Ukrainians, and Russians in Crimea and other occupied Ukrainian regions. So I think they're primarily focused on Crimea, but they're elsewhere. Atesh, which stands for fire, which means fire in Crimean Tatar, was created in September last year, primarily to carry out acts of sabotage from within the ranks of the Russian army. It claims more than 4,000 Russian soldiers have already enrolled in an online course on how to survive the war by wrecking their own equipment. That is true. That is another one. That is another sort of effort that I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't really take a deep dive into. But basically, the Ukrainians, Atesh, etc., were putting out how-to videos on how to basically, like if you're in a Mista S, or you're in a T-72, or you're in all these different vehicles, they basically are teaching the Russians how to disable permanently, or for an extended period of time, damage their equipment without making it look like they're damaging their equipment. So that way they can say, oh, darn, the tank broke down. Oh, the SPG won't fire. And then they abandon it, and then they go back. And they don't get in trouble because they basically follow the instructions on how to disable it surreptitiously. There's no evidence linking the group to the latest attack on the Kerch Bridge early on Monday morning, but the group has claimed a string of smaller attacks, blowing up Russian checkpoints, assassinating Russian officers, setting fire to barracks, and feeding sensitive information to the Ukrainian intelligence. It recently accused Russian sappers of laying mines in Kreminsky Titan chemical works in Armyansk, in northern Crimea. It's a chemical plant that could basically turn into a chemical bomb. An explosion there could spread ammonia cloud across the land bridge between the peninsula and mainland Ukraine. Atesh is very deep underground. Jamelev, 79, told The Guardian in an interview. There was not a single arrest amongst the Tesh members, but they are working inside Crimea territory, blowing up targets. So, over a year and a half of this group operating behind Russian lines, and they haven't, according to him, haven't lost a single person. They've not been arrested. Zemailov said that 300,000 strong Crimean Tatar community had been the focus of resistance to Russian occupation since 2014, when Moscow annexed Crimea, not least because of its experience under Moscow's rule. The Crimean Tatars are the Turkic-speaking native people of Crimea, absorbed by the Mongol Golden Horde in the 13th century. They adopted Islam and broke away as the powerful Crimean Khanate in the 15th century. After Russian annexation in 1783, the process of persecution and expulsion began under imperial rule, and it was continued under the Soviet Union. They basically killed them, tried to Russify them, arrested them, impoverished them, put them in Siberian gulags, etc. They wanted to basically wipe them out, or at least cow them. In 1984, Stalin deported the entire Crimean Tatar population, mostly to Uzbekistan, including Zemela's family. So that's why when we say that there are Tatars in Russia, they're literally, they're air quote Russians, because they've been there for so long, but they were forced to live in Russia, in Uzbekistan, by Stalin, including Zemela's family when he was 6 months old. As a human rights activist, he spent years under surveillance and in penal colonies. He is no longer the chairman of the Crimean Tatar Assembly, the Melis, but remains a member of the parliament and the preeminent elder of the community. On March 12, 2014, 2 weeks after the Russian soldiers wearing no insignia, the Little Green Men, seized strategic points in Crimea, and 4 days before a referendum was held on the peninsula to endorse its independence, Vladimir Putin spoke to Zelensky by phone. He told me he saw Crimea Tatars as pacifists, and he hoped that there would be no violence, Zemelov recalled in the 45-minute conversation. I told him, wait a minute, it's non-violence when you are defending your civil rights in your own country, but when when an enemy boot steps on your land, that's a completely different matter. Anyways, long story short, I won't go through it's a good article. Shows you the kind of history, and basically these guys are active, and so when you see things blowing up on Ukrainian land that's currently held by the Russians, there's a real good chance that Atesh has got something to do with it. And they're employing Russian soldiers. So along the same lines, I found their website. I just looked for it today, and their website, their Twitter page. And this is Atesh in Crimea. At Fletch Reports, right, basically is talking about what they're doing. And you can see here the OPSEC that they're sharing, right? They're observing the Sevastopol. So you wonder where the intelligence comes from. Is it just some randos on the street walking by or whatever? Well, there is, here is Atesh, and that's their symbol, the flame, basically sharing pictures of the ships in the Sevastopol. When they leave, when they return. Many Sevastopol residents work daily to collect information about the Black Sea Fleet. Any requests to withdraw ships from Crimea or place them in Sevastopol Bay do not go unnoticed. All information is transmitted to the Defense Forces of Ukraine. So basically, the Ukraine Defense Forces are receiving this information almost real time. So they don't need, they've got it, but they don't need a satellite to tell them when the ship has arrived or leaving port. These people are basically feeding it to them real time. Here's more evidence of the Atesh agents, whatever you want to call them, monitoring the FSB, Russian intelligence building, right? Showing the location, address, cameras out front, that sort of thing. Partisan group Atesh claims that it helped the Ukrainian armed forces to adjust successful strike on the Black Sea Fleet. This is yesterday, benefiting from the cooperation of Russian officers who needed the money due to delayed salary payment. 6 other strikes on Crimea were claimed. including at Bakasoya. I can't pronounce that. I apologize. But so here is Itesh basically tracking those who support the criminal war, getting their license plates, vehicle types, sharing it with the Ukrainians as well. So you wonder why those vehicles get burned up, blown up, all that sort of stuff, right? Maybe this will be the last one. We'll see. Itesh records the transfer of Caucasians to Crimea. Caucasians. The agent observes a lot of soldiers of Caucasian appearance on the streets of Zankoy. Several groups are spotted at the train station of the city. Equipment is constantly moving, bringing and taking away soldiers. So again, it looks like it's just a constant stream of information that the Ukrainians can use. This confirms the message of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine about the transfer of conscripts from the Kabardino-Balkarian Republic to Crimea, but the scale is much larger than previously thought. Right? So just, it's incredible. Here's another really good one, geolocated as well. So here's Sevastopol Bay, showing you exactly what ships are, which berth they're in. Right? So, Atesh, ATESH, something cool to keep an eye on. And really impressive to see what they're doing. So the Wagner keeps on getting picked on, and it's a good thing, I think. But their Aleutian 76 has crashed in Mali. This is a very, very large plane, and while Russian planes have been having a lot of trouble lately, Wagner's under attack from Africans, from some of the Muslim groups out there, potentially from the Russian MOD, FSB, etc. So this is, and again, no idea if there was any people on it. I don't know if it's said. Oh yeah, plus the Ukrainians too would love to take out Wagner as much as possible. But anyways, this this plane is very, very large. That is an Aleutian Aleutian 76, an Aleutian IL 76. It is meant. This is what the Wagner have traveled to and from Africa to Moscow or to, St. Petersburg or wherever they're traveling. These planes were also used. They can transport troops. They're used to act as AWACS planes. When they've got the dome on top. Very, very large, very, very capable plane. Very, very difficult to take them out of the sky. They have four. Do they have 4 or 5? They have a tail engine too. I think it's just the 4. Yeah, it's just the 4. They have 4 independent engines. So for an Aleutian to be taken out of the sky, they're hard to crash. So you can posit what you like on what happened to them. So. On to the hit yesterday on the Black Sea headquarters in Sevastopol. So there's been some incredible video footage that's been coming out, including this slow-mo of the Storm Shadow Scalp cruise missile. Now, excuse me, I'm going to show you a little footage a little bit later, or a picture. To me, I believe it was hit at least 3 times. Observers on the ground claim 3 to 4. There's been 2, I think, confirmed on camera, but it seems based on the damage and what was burning already. So this is the front face. This building is shaped like a U, right? The ends of the U are going this way and over this way in the distance, and here's the bottom of the U. That's the front facing. It looks like the Greek columns. So for sure, at least this section has already been hit. And you'll see, and it looks like this is an independent smoke cloud on this side. So to me, there's already been 2 strikes, and people keep calling this a double tap. I think it was a triple tap at least. And just for point of reference, apparently Admiral Sokolov, the guy in charge of the Black Sea Fleet, apparently his office was right here on the upper floor on this wing, and may have been the first one that was hit. I believe that the first scalp or sword shadow came in on more of a horizontal, and basically went in through the window, and that is what a couple of claims were, that it came in through the window. I don't know about the other one that looks like a roof shot, and then this one is definitely a roof shot. But if you watch, you're going to see right up here, you're going to see a storm shadow or scalp come in slow-mo, and it's going to take out the front section, and it's going to hit so hard that you're going to see the front doors and windows and stuff blast out. So there you go. So it went right through the roof. And once these things impact the outer shell of their target, then the secondary penetrator basically goes to work. And you can imagine what the interior of this building looks like if 3 storm shadow or scalps hit it. What one of them is capable of doing, all 3 of them together in short order. Let's hit one more time. There's the storm shadow or scalp, and the front is relatively undamaged at this point. It's the 2 sides that are smoking, and then you can see, like, it actually looks like the roof line bulges a bit, but it decimated it. So there you go. Here is satellite view that kind of talks a little bit about what I was talking about. So satellite images of the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters. This is hours after the Ukrainian strike. So you'll see materials. This is kind of what we just saw. Materials ejected by the impact in the front. That's the front afterwards. Multiple floors and fires are burning. So before, when we started watching that video, this front was white and pristine. There was nothing going on. Now you can see there's 2 floors up in the front. There's active flames. Third impact, filmed one, likely hit the front northeast corner. We saw that. That's the side view that I talked about where his office was. One impact cratered the west wing and blew a large amount of debris into the western alley. Here you can see 5 fire engines, and unknown for sure if 2 or 3 missiles hit. I am leaning strongly towards 3, not that it really matters. And yeah, that's kind of the same picture. Yeah, so this is the one that I wanted to show you that shows the difference. So here's where we were looking on the side. There's the front of the U that we saw the last impact come in this way and strike through there and blow out the front. This part was already burning, and this part was already burning. That's a smaller version. That's a big version of that particular building, the headquarters. So this is the before, and that's the after. So you see the after? That looks to me to be an independent, at least one crater. You could almost argue that there's 2, but that's an independent crater right there. That is a hole in that roof. Guaranteed, definitely that's a hole in that roof right there. And we saw the third one come in. So to me, this building has 3 sections, and it took 3 storm shadow or scalp hits. My personal layman's opinion. So yesterday, and I wanted to kind of apologize because on my video, one of my afternoon video around 5 o'clock yesterday, I believe it was, I kind of made some statements and didn't really sort of caveat them all or back them up. So one, when I said that Sokolov had been liquidated, I should have stated that multiple sources were claiming that he was liquidated, but as always, there was no confirmation at that point. In addition to that, I also stated that there were calls for 40 ambulances to bring people to the hospital, and other Russian telegram and sources that I had read stated that there was up to 30 dead, 30 casualties. So I didn't really caveat those as much as I should have. I should have basically pointed that out, that Sokolov very well could be alive, and and that the 30 KIAs, if you want to call them that, may not have been 30 There could have been just injuries. We're never going to get the truth out of the Russians, the Russian MOD. If they say 3 died, then it could be very well 30. If they say nobody died, then it's somebody did, but we just don't know the number. They always lie. They tend to chop it down by 90% or whatever. But so then there was rumors, obviously, fog of war, all that sort of stuff. There was rumors that Sokolov was alive, but then he was in a coma, almost like the Kadyrov thing, that he was in grave condition, that he'd been transported to hospital, condition unknown, etc. I have read and found, without even looking hard, half dozen sources, either Russian sources and or Ukrainian sources with Russian sources, that all claim that Sokolov has been KIA'd. So once again, he is the admiral in charge of the entire Black Sea Fleet. Incoming reports of Admiral Viktor Sokolov, the commander of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, being on the Russians KIA'd in the Ukrainian missile strike against the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol today. Taking out an admiral is no small thing. That is the truth. Once it's confirmed, he will be the highest ranking individual in the Russian military who has been removed in this war. In addition, Budanov, who I trust with my life, has claimed that the commander of the Russian forces in southern Ukraine, Colonel General Alexander Romanchuk, the commander of the 200th Separatized Motorized Brigade, Lieutenant General Oleg Sekov, were severely wounded in the Ukrainian attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters today. So by all accounts, 2 days ago, the Ukrainians took out the Russians' backup command post where the Black Sea Fleet command would meet. And so yesterday they all decided, well, what would be a great idea is to meet in broad daylight in our main building in Sevastopol that was just hit recently. That would make sense. And so the rumor was that Sokolov had called all of his senior leadership in to meet, and all met on the upper floors. Among severely wounded in Ukrainian attack, Black Sea headquarters, Colonel Romanchuk, he confirms that at least 9 dead and 16 injured among the Russian military personnel. So that's as of right now, and it could be a lot higher by the sounds of what they were calling for from an ambulance perspective. So this is Alexei Danilov, who I love. He's very off the cuff. He's the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. He said the Russian Black Sea Fleet will be sliced up like a salami. The best option for the Russian military would be to scuttle its fleet, basically sink them. There are 2 options for the future of Russia's Black Sea Fleet: voluntarily or forced self-neutralization. So he's basically like, we're going to pick you apart. Give up, or we'll make you give up. Here is Budanov. Strikes on the bridge, on the Crimean bridge, will continue regularly. And this is Budanov laughing, I believe. Could be laughing. Not sure. It's very tough to read his emotions, but nice to see that he's basically stating that we haven't forgotten about the bridge. This is by Artur Rehi, Levum. He basically attacks on the UAF. Attacks by the UAF continue with 3 new targets. So in Crimea, there's been a reported explosion that occurred close to the settlement of Vilnius in occupied Crimea, close to Vesoloya airfield. There is no information regarding the target or damage caused by the attack. I looked and I couldn't find anything, but that's off in the distance. It looks like another airfield may have been struck. This is a Russians transporting troops on a boat on the Dnipro, we believe, somewhere in, and I'm going to stop it right there, but you can look that one up. They did not do well. It looked like 3 to 4 Russian soldiers on that boat in the Dnipro, and it looked like there was one that was capable of swimming after the fact. 4 in Sevastopol. This morning there were reportedly explosions in Sevastopol. This is new. An active air defense. Air defense was active, followed by explosions heard close to Inkerman. Some sources said that it was a UAV, but the Russian-appointed head of Sevastopol insists that it was a missile attack. But something large struck on the outskirts of Sevastopol. So there you go. It's not stopped. Let's put it that way. I've seen multiple reports. This is something to watch. You want to watch Verbove, right? In southern Ukraine, the big salient that they've got going on. I've seen numerous reports, Russian and Ukrainian, stating that the armed forces of Ukraine have broken through the Russian defense in Verbove, and there will be an even greater breakthrough. This is from the Ukrainian strategic group Tavria. So this is not rumored. This is not rumors. This is directly from a Ukrainian source who's basically said they have broken through Verbove, the defensive lines around it, and there's larger breakthroughs to come. So I could see Verbove either being encircled or falling shortly, because the Ukrainians have been pushing hard. Remember when they got across the Saravikan line, right? That there was a couple of trench lines here, and then there was another one that came down like this. They got their mechanized equipment across. They've got lots of troops across. They got punched in the mouth a bit, and then they back off, and then they pushed again. And by all accounts, it sounds like they are making very good progress on Verbove. So that is one to watch. Archer again. He does some really good short updates on. So in Robotny. Robotny Verbove, which is what we were just talking about, the UAF has achieved tactical success in a number of directions west of Verbove. The UAF moved forward into a forest plantation south and southwest of Robotny toward the village of Novoprokopivka and a significant stronghold. So they're pushing to the south and southwest of Verbove. Marinka fighting is still ongoing for control of significant strongholds in the south of Marinka. According to Russian information, the Ukrainian armed forces has achieved tactical victories. This is in the east. Have achieved tactical victories, and they have also reported close combat point that is marked on the map. So I assume that's like kind of close combat, hand-to-hand, almost fighting. Typically what happens when the Ukrainians start to storm trenches, etc. In Klishchivka, also in the east, right, south of Bakhmut, on the southern flank of Bakhmut direction, the enemy has been driven back by the Ukrainian armed forces from some of the captured territories. So the Russians pushed, the Ukrainians pushed them back. So you can see here's some farmland, and you can see here the Ukrainians have taken more of it and pushed them east, which is great. The last thing I wanted to play for you, I want you to turn your volume up if you're watching this, is Vladimir Zelensky in Canada visiting with Ukrainian Canadians in a hockey arena, of course, and they decided to break into the Ukrainian national anthem, and Zelensky sung along with them. This is a better quality video, but the audio on this one is way better, so we're going to go with the high quality audio. Forgive the volume, but I'm not turning it down. And here you go. Haram Slava. See, they started to break out into it while he was going to give his speech, so he stopped. Haram Slava. How beautiful was that? I do not know the words to their national anthem, and I don't really need to. I just love the song. It's beautiful. And I just love how they just broke into it out of the blue. And he just stepped back and sang along. It's a beautiful thing. Anyways, that is it. I'm going to end it there. A little longer than I thought, but I thought there was some really good information in there for you. I hope you enjoyed the stream today. Enjoy your Saturday. Tell someone you love them. Slava Ukraini.